Welcome back to our channel. The Lincoln cent had been a familiar sight for generations. Its coppery sheen, an iconic portrait, a quiet witness to everyday transactions. By 1990, the penny had already undergone subtle changes over the decades, shifting composition in the early 80s and continuing to roll off the presses in massive numbers. In Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, the rhythm of production was steady, precise, and relentless. But as with so many stories of rare coins, that year's output was not entirely perfect. Somewhere in the rush of minting billions of cents, something unusual slipped through undetected in a small Illinois suburb. A seasoned collector named Paul sat at his kitchen table, enjoying his usual weekend ritual of coin searching. Years of practice had trained his eyes to notice even the slightest anomaly, the faintest doubling of a date, the ghost of a missing mint mark, the whisper of an off-center strike. He was working through a fresh batch of rolls from the bank, flipping penny after penny with quiet diligence. When he froze that tea first, it was instinct. He couldn't quite articulate why this 1990 cent seemed different. He tilted it under the light, and the luster shimmered more boldly than most he'd seen. But what truly made his breath catch was something else entirely. The S, mint mark, was conspicuously absent. Yet the surfaces of the coin carried a mirror-like brilliance more akin to a proof coin than a circulation strike. He reached for his loupe and examined it closer. Sharp, squared edges, flawless fields, and a depth of strike that no ordinary circulation cent should have. But no mint mark on what appeared to be a San Francisco proof. His pulse quickened as the pieces started coming together. Paul knew that the San Francisco Mint struck proof coins, all of which bore the distinctive S mark to denote their origin. In 1990, every proof cent was supposed to have it. Yet here he was, holding a gleaming 1990 penny with proof characteristics, but no mint mark at all. That he set the coin down carefully, realizing that he had stumbled onto something few collectors ever experience. He dug into his books, confirming what he already suspected. The 1990 No S proof cent was one of the rarest and most coveted modern Lincoln cents. A small handful had somehow escaped the mint's attention, likely when a die intended for Philadelphia was mistakenly used in San Francisco to strike a proof run. He could hardly sleep that night. In the morning, he called a reputable grading service, his hands slightly trembling as he recounted what he'd found. The process of sending it in and waiting for the results felt like an eternity, each passing day stoking his anticipation. Finally, the coin returned, encased in a protective slab and authenticated as one of the fabled 1990 No S proof Lincoln cents. It didn't take long for the whispers to grow. Among collectors, the 1990 No S quickly became an object of desire, with many eager to pay dearly for a chance to own one. Paul's discovery made headlines in niche collecting circles, sparking renewed excitement and even prompting more roll hunting as hopeful hobbyists combed their own collections for another example. First, the coins traded hands for a few $1,000s, a tidy sum, but nothing extraordinary yet. But as the years passed and the full extent of their rarity became clear, their value steadily climbed. Auctions began to feature the coin more prominently, noting its sharp strikes, brilliant finish, and unusual origin. Prices edged into five figures, then beyond, as determined bidders competed for each scarce example that surfaced. Paul watched the market evolve with quiet pride, marveling at how a simple oversight at the mint had turned his routine weekend hobby into something unforgettable. Each new auction brought a sense of validation and wonder, reminding him of the extraordinary hiding within the ordinary. Yet one more surprise awaited. Years after his discovery, a retired mint employee shared a little-known detail in an interview. A brief maintenance delay had caused a proof die from the Philadelphia die stock, lacking the S, to be mounted in San Francisco during a rushed proof run. It was only caught after a few dozen coins were struck. Most were pulled before leaving the mint. But a few, just a few, slipped away unnoticed into proof sets, waiting to be discovered. Paul couldn't help but smile when he heard the story, as it added a perfect twist to his already remarkable find. When he finally decided it was time to let the coin go to another collector, he watched it take center stage at a prestigious auction house. The room quieted as the bidding began, and the numbers climbed higher, faster than even he expected. The final hammer fell, and murmurs of awe rippled through the audience. The very rare 1990 NOS Lincoln Cent had found its place in history, now commanding prices ranging from $48,000 to as much as $110,200 at auction, depending on condition and provenance. A testament to how even the smallest slip of metal can carry a story worth far more than its face value. The dawn of a new millennium was marked by celebration, fireworks, and a sense of turning a page in history. For the U.S. Mint, 2000 was another year of immense production, with billions of coins pouring out of Philadelphia and Denver to meet the demands of commerce. The familiar Lincoln Cent, long since reduced in copper content but still iconic, continued to dominate pockets and cash drawers across America. Yet hidden in the endless tide of pennies that year was something unexpected, an unassuming anomaly that would not reveal itself until one keen pair of eyes spotted it years later in a quiet Michigan town. A young collector named Samuel was sorting through bags of cent from the bank, his desk crowded with coin tubes, magnifiers, and notes scribbled with dates and mint marks. He had started collecting as a boy with his grandfather, and though he now had his own family and a full-time job, he still returned to the hobby whenever he could, drawn to the quiet thrill of discovery that on that particular winter night he was working through yet another bag of 2000 dated cents, not expecting much. The coins clinked softly as he rolled them between his fingers, checking dates and mint marks almost automatically. But then his fingers stopped on one coin that caught the light a little differently. At first he thought it was just a stain or perhaps a bit of toning. He tilted it back and forth, squinting as the field shimmered. But this penny wasn't just toned. It was struck on a planchet that didn't quite feel right. The color was subtly different, the surface slightly off from what he was used to seeing. The edge felt smoother, and the weight. He was sure it felt different in his hand. Samuel pulled out his small scale, something he hadn't used in weeks, and placed the penny on it. The reading flashed back a number that made him pause. Too heavy for a zinc cent, too light for a pre-1982 copper one. He waited again, and again the same result, that he leaned closer, inspecting the surfaces under magnification. The strike was sharp, but the coin itself seemed to have been struck on the wrong metal entirely. He flipped through his guidebooks, page after page, confirming what he suspected. In 2000, every penny was supposed to be struck on a copper-plated zinc planchet. There were no authorized exceptions. Yet here he was holding a Lincoln Cent struck on something else entirely. Over the next few days, Samuel researched obsessively, calling fellow collectors, posting photos on forums, and even contacting a trusted numismatist. The responses he received ranged from disbelief to admiration. What he had in his hands appeared to be one of the very few 2000 Lincoln Cents struck on a transitional planchet, likely intended for a foreign coin or left over from a previous production. RUN.IT was a rare mistake, one that almost certainly happened when a blank of the wrong composition slipped into the line unnoticed. Perhaps it was a copper planchet left over from an earlier year, or a foreign bronze blank accidentally fed into the press. Whatever the source, it was clear this was not an ordinary penny. Samuel sent it in to be authenticated, his heart pounding when the package returned weeks later. Encased in plastic and labeled with its unique designation, the coin was officially certified as a 2000 Lincoln Cent struck on an off-metal planchet. The rarity of such an error, especially in a modern date, made it an immediate curiosity among collectors. Word spread quickly in the numismatic community. People began scouring their own 2000 cents in hopes of finding another. Dealers mentioned it in newsletters, and small bidding wars erupted at local shows whenever one of the few examples surfaced. At first, the prices were modest, just a few $1,000s. But as more collectors learned of the rarity and the story behind it, the market began to shift. Over the next few years, these rare 2000 off-metal cents began appearing at national auctions, their prices climbing higher each time. A sharp example with full detail would fetch a stunning premium, far beyond what anyone would have guessed at the beginning. Samuel watched from the sidelines, never quite ready to part with his own discovery. For him, the coin represented not just value, but also the quiet joy of having found something extraordinary where no one else thought to look. Then came a surprising twist. In 2010, a retired mint engineer confirmed in an interview that during late 1999 and early 2000, the mint was still experimenting with leftover blanks from foreign contract coins and obsolete compositions to keep the presses moving during a material shortage. A few of these blanks, indistinguishable by eye to most workers, found their way into the production bins and were struck with Lincoln cent dies. This revelation added a fascinating layer to Samuel's story, explaining how such an error could have occurred at all and solidifying the coin's place as a genuine product of an unusual chapter in mint history. When Samuel finally decided to consign his coin to auction a decade later, he watched as the bidding climbed well beyond what he'd dared to dream. Collectors in the room and on the phones pushed the price upward. Each new bid met with murmurs of admiration and anticipation. That be why the time the hammer fell. The rare 2000 U.S. Lincoln cent had earned a place among the most sought-after modern errors, with certified examples now realizing anywhere from $40,000 to as much as $103,200, depending on their condition and provenance. Samuel left the auction with a quiet smile, knowing his small, coppery discovery had written its own unforgettable story in the history of American coinage.